What's really good, my people? Welcome in to No Catch Up Sports Talk via Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Little. Big Nick the Quick with me, as always. Bears take a devastating L, 31-28 to the Denver Broncos at home, below a 21-point lead. You already know. We're jumping right into it. Big Nick the Quick, what's happening?
How we feeling, man? I'm actually live from the Mile High City, man. I had the
Oh, yeah,
pleasure of
you're
watching.
in Denver.
I'm
That's
in
right.
Denver, so I had the pleasure of watching the game at about 8,000 feet yesterday with a mix of Bears and Broncos fans, man. So saw it all, saw it all, man.
Yeah,
So yeah, tough.
it's it was all bad. We could you know what's funny, man? We can talk about we can talk about Justin's first half. We can talk about just there you go, that looks good. Overall, just what transpired in the game. It just talks, it's just such the it was just such the perfect ending to the bigger picture and exactly what's going on at Hallis Hall. You have the whole Chase Claypool thing. And let's open. I want to open with that. Who fucking cares why he was there or if he was there or whose decision it was or who it wasn't? And the fact that Eberflus didn't know what to say and didn't know how to respond to simple questions of who sent him home, who said who told him he was going to be inactive, when did we know?
Whose
For him
decision
to
was it?
be for whose decision was it? For him to be tripping up over those questions is a clear indication he doesn't have control of what's going on with the team in the roster, doesn't know how he wants to approach things, doesn't know how to react to things, doesn't know what he's doing.
It's a lack of control. It's a lack of control. It also tells you that coming from the top, the messaging isn't clear. Usually, when incidents like that happen, the organization knows exactly what the response is going to be so that you avoid a situation where, like this, where you have to say something on Sunday and then come out Monday morning after an embarrassing loss and clarify what you said. So, I mean, yeah, from top to bottom, it's just a mess. You add that on top of the game, it's like, yeah, just like you said it, man. It's just overall indicative of what's going on at Hallis Hall as a whole. It's a disaster over there. It's a mess. And the Bears, like I said last week, man, we're in full laughing stock territory.
We've been in full laughing stock territory. Let's talk about the game. 31-28. Bears at one point going into the fourth quarter, essentially the start of the fourth quarter, were up 28-7. They had just give up a TD to make it essentially a 2 touchdown game going into the fourth quarter. Start of the fourth quarter, at least 14 plus minutes left in the fourth quarter. At one point, you can get the Broncos at plus 1,500 live to win the game. After they went up 14 points, you could tweet or not tweet. You can get the Broncos at plus 800 live if you wanted to take just the money line.
I was
Big
I
Nick
was
the
with a
Quick.
guy who I was with a guy who took it at plus 600.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the opportunities were there. We started to at 28-14, I started to send the messages of we have a real shot at blowing this. The discourse around the Bears on Twitter and everyone I had talked to was like, man, we finally got a W. It was almost like the game was over. Justin Fields played extremely well. He is now he's showing the flashes of what we expect from a starting quarterback in the NFL. And I started to have this creeping feeling of this game is far from over. We know the defense can give up chunks of yards at a time. I don't see why they wouldn't be able to rip off 14 points here and at least get to overtime. And they didn't even need overtime to get the W. Talk to me about your feelings on the game overall before we get into what we're going to do next, because that's where we're going to spend the back half of this. Talk to me about the game overall. Where are you at on Fields' performance? Played sensational, threw 4 touchdowns, set the record for Bears completions in a row at 16. I believe tied the record for completions in a row. Then
Yeah.
goes on to turn the ball over in a really tough spot. Eli was harsh in the group chat about um it's about the clearest the easiest giveaway you can have. I thought that was extremely harsh. It was
Sure.
a tough turnover with his back to the defense, and then as soon as he turned around, there's a rusher in his face. Talk to me about the game. Talk to me about the performance from Justin Fields, and then we can get into what we'll do after that.
So let's get out the way. Like I said, I'm out here watching it in Denver, and I'll start with this: the Denver Broncos are an absolutely horrendous football team from a defensive perspective. So Justin Fields did what was there, right? You can only play who you're supposed to play against. So I'm not going to fault the opponent. He took advantage of everything that they were giving him. The soft coverage, the blown coverages. I mean, he was taking advantage of everything that was there. That's 100% what you want to see from him. Like you said, he set the record for completions. Would have had it if he didn't have the Hail Mary at the end of the game. So Bears came out firing. I love the running game. I love the play call. I loved everything they were doing. You and me were both critical on the touchdown pass to DJ Moore. That should have been just an easy 6. There was no reason he needed to throw that up and outside and have more extend to that, and that we need to go to a challenge for it. But yeah, man, the Bears couldn't have started off the game any better. I will say this: the whole time I was thinking two things. Number one, this is against a really, really, really bad defense that seems to have quit on its defensive coordinator and head coach, because some of the things that the Broncos were doing in the first half and the blown coverages and just allowing DJ Moore to run free or whatever it was, and the missed tackles and all that, it just looked like a team that gave up 70 last week and decided that their season is over. So I kind of had it with a grain of salt. But just like you, I had the same feeling. I'm like, I don't feel like this is a guaranteed W, especially coming out the half, especially once the offense started to slow up. Then you get that massive turnover. And yeah, it might not be the worst turnover I've ever seen, but it was a huge turnover in a terrible spot. You can blame it on the offensive line, but fact of the matter is you cannot get rid of the ball there in that situation. And once that happened, I knew, I was like, this is going to be tough. Like, we can talk about that fourth down call. I have no issue with him going for it. If you're 0-3 and you need some momentum and you're trying to get a dub and you were rolling offensively in the first half, I have no problem with you going for it on 4th and 1. I do have a problem with you giving it to Khalil Herbert on a shotgun draw that you had just ran 2 plays earlier, right up the middle, when the defense is clearly set up to stop that. So the issues with me, man, I mean, yeah, Fields did great, but when it mattered, he blew the game for us. It's the fumble and the interception. The coaching staff didn't help.
That's so harsh.
Hold on,
Blow the game is the reason we were in the game is because of him as well.
Right, absolutely. But he took us out of the game at the end. You can't have 2 turnovers in that spot. When you're trying to protect the lead, all you need to do at that point in time is protect the lead. And when you turn the ball over twice, you can't do it. So, I mean, that's that. I mean, I get that he played lights out in the first half, but again, it's a 4-quarter game, man. I'm not here for that.
The first half performance from Justin Fields was sensational. Overall, on the game, I think it will go down as a really good performance for Justin Fields. Now, let's be clear. I believe it was more going against the Denver Broncos than Justin Fields and Luke Getsy finding some type of rhythm, and Getsy and those guys are now on the same page. Through 4 weeks, this is the worst Denver Broncos defense of all time, according to DVOA. The Denver Broncos defense is that bad. We talked about it last week. Coming up tonight, Seahawks play the Giants. On 3rd down, the Bears are the worst team in the NFL coming into this week, giving up a first down at 60%. The Seahawks were 31st at 57%. The Broncos are like middle of the pack, lower half of the pack, but it's because they're not even getting to 3rd down. People are picking up chunks on 1st and 2nd down. This Denver Broncos defense is absolutely horrendous.
I got a quick stat that they gave yesterday. So from the start of the Broncos game through halftime yesterday, the Denver Broncos have given up 91 points and 997 yards of offense.
Through it's ridiculous. And through 2 first halves, Nick, they had given up 1 incompletion. Tua, the week when they hung 70 up, Tua had no incomplete passes at halftime. Justin Fields had 1 incomplete pass, and it was a Hail Mary at the half.
Yep.
Anyone can do absolutely anything on this Broncos defense. So for me, it was still a great performance, and you got to play who's on the schedule. But this gets no type of extra love on the offense as a whole, the design, Getsy, Fields, still tons of issues overall. It was more the Broncos defense being no hyperbole, one of the worst defenses I've ever seen to start a season, than me coming away from the game that Justin Fields and Luke Getsy are now somehow putting it together. Now, let's talk about the turnover, because I think even you're being harsh. Play action on 1st and 10, which I love, by the way. I love being aggressive on first down, run the boot, run the play action. And also, Justin Fields talked about it in the presser. He said, we have a no sack policy on naked bootlegs. If we call a naked bootleg, I have to get rid of the ball. I have to do something. I can't take a sack. Of course, a sack is better than giving up.
Wait, so is the alternative taking a fumble? It's no
Of
sack, everything else
course,
flies? Come on.
I knew you were going to say some goofy shit like that. Of course,
I want to hear that shit.
There's a no sack policy, so which makes sense. He's just trying to get rid of the ball. He makes his first mistake of the game, and in that, it just happened to be an insanely bad spot to give up a scoop and score. It's a fumble. I still don't mind him trying to make a play, not taking the sack and trying to get rid of it. It ends up being a scoop and score. It's a very unlucky play, if we're being completely honest. That mistake. He's made a lot of mistakes over the years, and even to start this season. I think that's way at the bottom of the list. If we're being completely honest, I think the interception to close the game was worse than the fumble.
The interception was awful.
The interception
but
was
when
worse.
you add that, but my point is, when you add that on top of the fumble, you can't sit here and come away from the game and say, I'm not putting that on Justin. Like, yeah, okay, I understand they have a no sack policy. I understand that it's his responsibility to try to get rid of the ball in that situation.
But
I understand
I'm not saying it's not on Justin. You know what I'm saying?
But either way, we talk about it all the time, man. It's a game of moments. It's a game of, specific moments that dictate the outcome of the game. And in that spot right there, right, with Denver coming back, with the momentum in their favor, to have them get a pick six in that moment. I'm sorry, not a pick six. I'm sorry. The scoop and score sack fumble in that moment was absolutely devastating, man. It's the one spot where you cannot make a turnover. And then you add that to the end of the game pick. And I can't come away from this game and say, hey, because Justin Fields was lights out in the first half against literally the worst defense I may have ever seen in my entire life, that he's somewhat absolved for what happened in the second half, or it's not all on him. I get it, man. We can go hours on this coaching staff and all the mistakes that they made, but he's got to go out there and execute, man. He's got to go out there and execute. Period, point blank. If it's any other quarterback, you might be killing. I would ask you this. If Daniel Jones fumbles in that spot right there, what are you saying? If Matt Ryan fumbles in that spot right there, what are you saying? I mean, Matt Ryan's never going to run a naked bootleg in his life, but you know what I'm getting at, man? Like, again, I get it, man. There's a thousand different things you can say. Oh, it's, this happened, that happened. This is what he's thinking. That's what he's thinking. The fact of the matter is he fumbled the ball. They scored a touchdown. That ended up leading to us blowing this game that we were already on our way to blowing. You got to protect the football in that situation, man.
Sure. It's just extremely harsh to say that's like, for example, Zach Wilson last night on Sunday Night Football dropping the snap is a way worse turnover than what Justin Fields did. His just happened to go for a scoop and score.
So if we're using Zach Wilson as a basis of comparison,
no.
But we're in a really tough spot. You understand what I'm trying to tell you?
Yeah,
that's my point. If that's what we got to point to a Zach Wilson mistake to bring up Justin Fields, we're in a really tough spot here. And I'm. So I'm trying not to be negative on him, man, because I don't want to make it seem like I don't understand that everything around him is bad, and that really makes it hard for you to develop as a quarterback. Like, I fully get that. This organization is shit. This offensive staff is shit. Our head coach is shit. Last year, you pretty much punted on a year for him, which I think hindered his development. You haven't won a game in 13 consecutive games. Like, it's terrible around him, and it's really hard to develop as a quarterback in that situation. But again, man, I'm not gonna let him off for his mistakes. You got to play better there. You got to play better there.
Sure, I agree, but it was a very unfortunate spot that he goes for a scoop and score. That was one of his least egregious turnovers. I'll say that. And then let's go to the pick to end the game. He talked about him. It was almost like Justin Fields heard Mahomes and Mahomes and Travis Kelce talk about how they go off feel, and if they see a certain coverage, maybe they'll sit down, or they're on the play sheet. He's supposed to break in left, but he's going to break out right because that's what the spot calls for. In the press conference, if you go back and listen to Justin Fields, he explains how essentially he thought Kmet was going to sit down in the opening, and Kmet stayed true to the play call and went left. That you guys are not on that level yet. That connection is not there.
That's on the quarterback.
That's on the quarterback.
You run the fucking play that's called.
You run the play that's called. The freelancing and trying to do something. Essentially, you haven't had that connection ever all season. To try to do that in a spot where you're trying to go down and run a 2-minute drill and get 6 to win the game is inexcusable. That turnover is a lot more egregious to me than a free rusher coming off the edge, turning your back on a play action and trying to get rid of it and fumbling the rock.
And why do we look at Mahomes and Kelsey and before that Mahomes and Hill the way that we do? Is because their ability to live off script and execute at a high level off script is what makes them special. But we can't execute on script, let alone off script. So
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like you're not in a position. And again, I don't love all the play calling, but you're not in a position to go out there and start going free willy. You know what I mean? So that's ridiculous. I did not hear that that's the explanation that he gave. And I appreciate the honesty, but that's not where we're at, man. We're nowhere near there. If he's supposed to sit down on the route, if he's supposed to keep going on the route, then that's what the route calls for. You can't just anticipate that he's going to know that you want him to know that you're going to sit down. You guys have not been in those types of situations.
That connection is not there.
That connection is not there. You guys have played 20 games together. You know what I mean? That's ridiculous. So again, that's what I'm saying, man. Like these types of things cannot happen. These types of things cannot happen. It's easy to zero in on the 4th and 1 call to go for it. And I have my own thoughts on that, which I kind of elaborated on earlier. But again, there was a lot of other shit that went into that.
Well, let's talk. I didn't get to chat about the 4th and 1 because I love the call to go for it.
Love it.
Fucking tuck it in and close the game out. Now, if you go back and look at fuck 4th down on third and 5, I'm assuming it's 2 down territory. So I guess running the ball up the middle, because Herbert was rolling, and Eberflus talked about that in the press conference. At that stage in the game, that confidence, the running game was moving the rock, and Juice Herbert was moving. Now, when it's 3rd and 5, you're going in, you're in the red zone. To take the ball out of your best player on offense hands 2 times in a row is inexcusable. We've talked about this over and over and
to run the same play
at nauseum, that when you let Justin have an option, there's more options to pick up the first, period. If you run an ISO or a power on 3rd and 5 and you don't pick it up,
it was a draw.
No, the 4th and 1. The 4th and 1 was a read option. Justin said so. He had the
draw.
He had the option. He had the option to pull it, but he said, backside.
At no
pressure
point did that look like a read option to me. It looked like a halfback draw.
It did look like a halfback draw to me as well. But that's what Justin said.
I play enough man to know what a halfback draw looks like out the shotgun. That looked like a halfback draw.
Either way, okay. if it was a read, it looked like Justin was giving that bitch up the whole way.
Regardless,
that was kind of what he saw, right?
Yeah.
So my biggest beef on that is give your best player, your most athletic player, your most dynamic player a chance on 3rd or 4th down. Yes. He cannot not see the rock 2 plays in a row in a must-need. Put Justin Fields against damn near anyone in the NFL, the most athletic league, you can argue, versus the NBA in the world, one-on-one to the edge. I'm almost taking Justin Fields versus everyone.
And it doesn't matter if they know it's coming.
Right.
That's the other thing. It doesn't matter if they know it's coming. Who cares? You're banking on his athleticism. You're banking on a guy who rushed from 1,200 yards from the quarterback position last year. You're banking on a guy who has escapability. But instead, you handed up the middle to Khalil Herbert. And again, like you said, Herbert was rolling yesterday. But I hate that play call.
Twice.
Yeah, twice. And then in between that, you burn a timeout on the hard count.
Exactly, which didn't make any sense.
Didn't make any sense at all. If we're being honest here, let's talk about the hard count real quick. When is the last time someone has fallen for the 4th and super short hard count in the NFL? Like everybody knows.
Well, Well, also,
It was a waste.
it was a waste of a timeout. But if you get the first down, the timeouts don't matter. But I
Of
also
course.
understand that. But come out, yeah,
It just wasted a lot of time. It didn't make
listen,
any
bro.
sense.
At the end of the day, give the ball to your best guy. Run a fucking bootleg and tell the fucking guy Nick, on the worst defense in the NFL, on the edge to make a play on Justin Fields.
An edge they hadn't been able to set all game. An edge they had not been able to set all game.
Get Justin Fields in some space and say, hey, bro, if you could tackle my man's here in the open field, then that's something we'll have to live with. Yeah. Even if you want to run a quarterback dive, just fucking keep the ball in the best, most dynamic, most
go down with Justin Fields
player in your hand. Exactly. Yeah. Go down with Justin Fields. Exactly right.
The fact that he doesn't touch the ball, and I get you want to say that was an option. It did not look like an option to me. Whatever. It shouldn't be an option. The option should be Justin Fields or nothing. Yes. And if we lose, if we don't convert, then it's, hey, that's fine. At least we put it in the hands of our best player. Yes. You don't have all that second guessing with the play that you ran because the play that you ran was terrible. Exactly. Again, when you have the option of Justin Fields, you don't have, I don't know who back there. It's Justin Fields, the most dynamic running quarterback in the league. It didn't make any sense, man. And that's Getsy. At this point, are we ready to talk about going forward?
Yeah, I was just about to transition into going forward.
Yeah. So
what do we do here? What do we do here? Because we talked about Northwestern and Pat Fitzgerald. The only thing you can't do is embarrass the school, embarrass the name, embarrass the logo. The McCaskies will deal with a lot of bullshit losing. They don't have Nick, as a matter of fact, Nick, actually, let me be clear. They don't even care about losing.
Don't care.
They don't care about losing. Just don't embarrass the name. Don't have us in the media as a complete laughing stock bozo. They have no problem, Nick, being the franchise that team plays hard. Man,
they really
Monsters,
have a lot of effort, man. Those guys.
The effort that they put out every week,
middle linebacker, you. Yeah.
I love the Bears and how hard they try. They could live with that. It's starting to become, this is clearly the worst team in the NFL.
Yep.
And they're finding new ways to embarrass the organization as a whole. My vision for what's next is very clear. What do you think about what they should do?
Yeah, and just to add on to that, right? You and I both do our shit. We watch all the morning shows and all that. And I can tell you every day last week, the Bears were featured in a segment. So when you're at that point where you're on an automatic setup on Get Up First Take and NFL, inside the NFL Today, you are in the spotlight, and that is the last thing that the Bears want. Ultimately, you got to move on from Getsy. It's just a shitty situation because now you're going to put the fourth person that's been in Fields' ear since he's been here, or third person that's been in his ear since he's been here. So you're essentially punting on this season if you fire your offensive coordinator because there's no way.
But Nick, you don't have to punt on the season. The season's over.
Yeah, the season's over.
It's been punted already.
I mean, you mentally as a team, as a coach, as an organization are saying we are punting on the season if that happens because, again, you're bringing in a new coordinator or maybe you're promoting the quarterbacks coach. I don't know what you're going to do from there, but it's clear it's not clicking with Getsy. You have to make a move after a loss like that. You have to make a move after a start to a season like that. I'd be looking up at the top, though. We talked about the Claypool situation. We talked about losing 14 straight games. We talked about being a defensive head coach with the poorest defense. What is it that you do? You wanted to be a CEO head coach when you came in, right? I'm not calling offense. I'm not calling defense. I'm running the building. Well, you're not doing that, right? Then you want to fall back on your defensive stuff when Alan Williams has his situation that we still don't know about. Well, you're not really doing a good job of that after 2 weeks. Then we have the Claypool situation today and yesterday. Well, you're not really managing those situations. So you talk about embarrassing the organization. This guy's not doing you any favors. Say what you want to about Lovey, right? Would never. We talk about these guys, these Tomlins, these Rabels, and these guys that just keep the shit together, even when they don't have talent or even when shit's going bad. It's the exact opposite over there. It's one story after another. 2 weeks ago, there was literally every single day, there was a new story that came out about the Bears. Each one worse than the one before. So when you're at that point, man, yeah, you got to make a big move. It's got to be toxic in there right now. You got equipment getting stolen overnight. You got all types of shit going on over there. And what you don't have happening is winning football games or progress on the football field. So you got to make a move, man. I have zero confidence in Eberflus, and if I was someone in that locker room, I wouldn't be able to see how I would either.
Yeah, if anybody in the chat watching has my phone number, DM, if you can give me one like singular reason why Matt Eberflus should have a job, I am open ears.
Anything he's done.
There is zero reason he should have a job. None. Zero. Not a one. That's it. So this is what Kevin Warren and the gang should do. And there's also stuff floating around I saw on Twitter that Ryan Poles it wasn't his idea to hire Eberflus. It was the organization's. And it came from up top and the McCaskies. Well, listen, I don't know if that's the case or not. From the audio, unless Poles is a really good actor, it seemed like that was his guy who we wanted to pick. Now, say that isn't the case, Nick. Say Ryan Poles didn't pick his coach. You shouldn't have taken the job then. Because when you come into a job like that as a GM, it is clear as day. Either I am making the decisions or I don't take the job. So that lands at Ryan Poles' feet regardless.
Didn't pick the quarterback, didn't pick the coach. Yeah.
So exactly. So if you're coming into a situation where you can't pick your own, you can't pick your own coach and you can't make decisions, then you're not the fucking GM. So you shouldn't take the job.
Right.
That's where we're at.
The two most important positions in your team are your quarterback and your head coach, and you didn't pick either of them. Is what it's sounding like. And the fact that even comes out tells you again where we're at as an organization.
Well, and if that's the case, there's a lot of people trying to reach and trying to figure out what's right, what's
pull
wrong,
back
what's
the old
real.
Clips and all that.
Yeah, exactly. What's not? Is he acting here? Look at this clip. Do you think that he picked? Is this his guy? Would a guy that picked his guy talk like this?
But this is the shit that happens. This is the shit that you start dealing with when you're a joke of a franchise. This 100%. Is joke franchise shit. We're in week 4 of the season. We should be talking about other shit than this. We shouldn't be talking about let's pull a press conference from 2 years ago when Ryan Poles was hired and try to figure out if he actually hired Matt Eberflus. It is week 4 of the NFL, week 5 of the NFL season. What are we doing here? That's a joke of a franchise. Yes. That's a joke of that's a joke of an organization.
Now I'm going to tell you, let me tell you what I would do. If I'm Kevin Warren, the president, I don't know, because I'll be honest. I like the majority of the moves that Poles has done. He did overpay a linebacker, maybe. He did give up a 2 for a guy that he's trying now to get a 6 for. But overall,
what linebacker you overplayed? Evans?
Yeah.
Who you saying he overpaid?
Is who I'm referencing.
Edmonds.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
He hasn't got an edge. There's a lot of pieces that he needs to fill, but it's still the first year under Poles. I love the package. I love the package that he got for Justin Fields, or not Justin Fields, the number 1 pick. That's a phenomenal deal done by him. So, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Is it though? Okay, so let me ask you this, and I guess you can't really put Jalen Carter in that because they did have the opportunity to draft Jalen Carter and just chose not to, and it looks like this guy is going to be Defensive Player of the Year if he stays in, keeps his nose clean. But we talk about not having an edge rusher. Wasn't there an elite one coming out in the draft? Wasn't Will Anderson considered to be an elite edge rusher? Like, again, I love the trade. I don't have a problem with it, but I can also look back and say, hey, again, we talk about it every single week, our 4 positions. If you have the chance to knock one of those off, right, you're that much better. So could you have just taken, knowing where the season's at right now, could you have just taken Will Anderson and said, fuck it, let's start building this defense? So, yeah.
Well,
I didn't mean to cut you off on that. But.
And I also want to reiterate this. We talked about this last week as well, maybe a couple of weeks ago. We have a president who didn't pick the GM or the coach, the GM and the coach who didn't pick the quarterback. So, there's a lot of disconnect. Now, I'm trying to think about it in an actual realistic standpoint instead of just saying fire everyone, restart, right? Because I believe, I don't know Ryan Poles' deal, but I would assume if you got rid of him this early, you'd owe him quite a bit of money. And we know the McCaskeys don't want to pay quite a bit of money. So I still think that there's a way to success here with keeping Poles around. Because I think it first starts with Eberflus and the staff overall. If I'm Kevin Warren and I'm Ryan Poles, let me be crystal clear here. In a perfect world, I'm firing Poles, I'm firing everybody and starting over. But I don't think that's going to happen.
So you think Kevin Warren should come downstairs?
100%. So what I'm getting at is, so I'm trying to be realistic here. In an unrealistic world, fire everybody, clean house, start over. What I would actually do right now, because I think Poles is going to have to be here for at least another year. I'm Kevin Warren. I'm coming down, and I'm telling Poles he needs to fire Eberflus right now. And then I'm telling the interim, hey, Nick, they could go get the motherfucker up the street to interim. And I'm telling him, I'm looking him in the face and I'm saying, your only order is to make sure shit is starting to be run like a team and lose games. I'm trading every piece of talent that I can. That listen to me. I'm trading every piece of talent that I can. That's worth something. Like I'm keeping like DJ and anybody that's fringe, I'm moving off of and I'm trying to get value with. And I am gonna close the year as close to the number one pick as I possibly can. And then I'm gonna go get a new coach and a new staff and a new everything. And I'm gonna move, and I would have to move off Justin Fields because that staff, I never want to see a staff inherit a quarterback ever again. So by default, I have to move off Justin Fields, and then that's how we're starting fresh. So next year, we'd have a new coach, a new offense, a new quarterback, and a new everything starting next year.
Yeah, and I obviously that's the way I would love to go, but that would be asking the Bears to completely change every single way of how they do business, right? Even starting with what you said about Poles, like you're asking them to completely and that's what they were supposed to be doing last year, wasn't it? Wasn't that what last year was?
Yeah.
Or didn't we trade away Khalil Mack? Didn't we trade away your boy, the Black Puerto Rican, Robert Quinn? We traded him away. We traded away a bunch of guys, right, to try to get some draft picks, to kind of get some cap relief.
The Black Puerto Rican. Shout out Robert Quinn.
Shout out Robert Quinn,
he had
man.
a good year, man. That was a good year.
He was a great year. That was sell high. That was a perfect sell high situation. I had no problem with all that. But that's what we were sold before. So I think if that's the plan that you're going to do, you have to execute it exactly how you did. You cannot have Ryan Poles lead that plan again. He is not allowed to get another rebuild. He's not allowed to get another complete tear.
So then you'd have to wipe it completely out.
So and then Kevin Warren, my understanding with Kevin Warren is here to get the stadium, right? That he's not here for football. Now ultimately he is in charge of the team, and I think he can make that decision because he has that direct line to the McCaskeys. But my understanding from everybody I've talked to is that Kevin Phillips, wherever he was coming from prior, he was big in getting the stadium done there, and they know that he's the type of guy to get a stadium done. So, but again, he is the president.
He's a businessman. He had the Big
Ten.
He's
a businessman.
Businessman. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Big Ten rolling.
Yeah, he's got the juice.
Conference in college sports.
But he's a businessman.
He's not to be a part of the Big Ten. He's
not a football man. He's not a football man. But in this case, he's going to have to be, because I 100% agree with you, man. I think you got to come down, at the very least, get rid of Eberflus. I have no problem moving on from Poles at this point. Again, because the whole situation is toxic. Get rid of all those guys. Hop on a flight to LAX. Ask Mr. Riley how much it's going to cost for him and his quarterback to come to town next year. I know USC gave him $100 million. I know Southern California is a great place to live. I'm sure his wife and kids love it. But, hey, come to Chicago. You can bring Caleb with you. You guys went from Norman to Southern California to Chicago together. Come on over here, man. Whatever you need. You are in charge of the entire operation of the Chicago Bears. Yes, you're going to have a GM, but you are the guy, right? We clearly don't know what we're doing when it comes to running a football team or playing offensive football for the past 100 years. So come in here. You have your quarterback. You have your pick of the roster. Shit, you can even pick your GM if you want to. Whatever it is, but you got to clear everything out. So I'm with you on that. I wasn't leaning that way before we started having this conversation, but yeah, I think you got to clear everybody
what's
out.
the other route?
I'm at polls now too. At first I was like, yeah, polls, but like, you know what, I'm at polls now too.
I just like I said, in a perfect world, polls would have to go too. I don't see him going, so I'm trying to think of a way around that piece. Like I said, I do like some of the moves that he made. So I think there is a little bit there, but yeah, in a perfect world, you got to pack up everybody. Now,
well, the Claypool deal, he's going to have that. The Claypool deal, yeah. I know, listen, man, the Claypool deal is a disaster.
It is.
If we're being honest, right? Like, if you look at his trades, like, he's only had 2 really big trades. That's the number 1 pick trade, and that's the Claypool trade. And the Claypool trade is a disaster.
Yeah, they gave up a 2. They're trying to get a
5. It was like a 33.
A 5 or a 6 back. Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, early 2 is actually a cheap one on a cheaper deal, right? So you gave up a very valuable pick to get a guy who I'm sure will probably never play again for the Chicago Bears, if we're being honest. There's no way he plays another game, right?
I don't see why. Why would he?
He came out and dogged it the first week of the season, gets benched, comes back, doesn't fight for passes, and then he's a no-show.
Played a lot better in week 2, but yeah.
No,
I don't. If he does, I think it's a bad look for everyone else.
Absolutely.
So,
you can't have him come back and then look at the locker room and be like, yeah, that's not how it works.
But yeah, man, I can't overstate how big of a disconnection. I would love to hear if there's ever been a time in the NFL other than right now. I'm sure there has been, but this isn't it just isn't typical to see a new president who didn't hire the GM, and the GM picks a coach who didn't pick the quarterback. And how is that shit ever supposed to work? You're asking people to be a team and build something from the ground up, but they didn't pick their team members.
Yep. You don't get to pick the most important parts of it.
Yeah, it just doesn't work like that. So I think Justin Fields, this is where I'm at on Justin Fields. Does he have talent? Yes. Does it flash here and there? Is he in a bad situation? Yes. Justin Fields has become collateral damage for the staff. He played for Matt Nagy, who didn't like him, didn't want him, didn't think he can play, wanted to play Andy Dalton. Then he gets a defensive coach, and shout out Payne Insider. He has mentioned this a couple times, that the Colts were going to fire Eberflus as a DC. And then we hired him as a head coach. That is like a clear narrative that is out there, that he wasn't going to make it as a DC. We make him the head coach. So Justin Fields
that's like our boy that used to be at the Cardinals. Got fired by Texas Tech and then gets hired by the Cardinals.
Got hired
to be an offensive coordinator at USC, but then the Cardinals like, no, come be our head coach.
Cliff Kingsbury. Also, so yeah, my fault. Back to Justin Fields. He's become collateral damage of 2 staffs that didn't know what they were doing, and didn't like him. And now he's back in the same exact position where the team that doesn't really like him, Getsy doesn't really love him, Eberflus doesn't really love him, as far as I can tell.
That?
I do.
Okay.
I do. Well, look, if you go back to the start of go back to last year. Start of the year, they're trying to change his game and manufacture him into some quarterback that he's not. They let him loose in the middle of the season. He's putting up numbers all over the place. Offense is the best in the league for a 4-week stretch. Then after that, hey, let's be honest. They tanked the rest of the season. So they tanked the rest of the season. So shit is dead, right? We go and get the first pick. Then they come into this year, and you can tell by the first 3 weeks, Getsy doesn't trust him. We talked about that. Talked about the play calling. It's all over the place. Let him loose. I know it's against the Broncos, so I don't like I said, I don't really take too much into it, but those play calls and the aggressiveness on first down was clearly different than it was earlier in the season. It was better play calling overall, even if it was against the Broncos. But yeah, overall, I don't think that Luke Getsy sees Justin Fields is not Luke Getsy's prototypical quarterback. So Justin Fields has become collateral damage for two bad staffs, two bad offenses. And does he have a little bit of part in that, like talent-wise and NFL quarterback level-wise? Sure. He's not off the hook completely, but he's become collateral damage, and he'll never get back for the Bears. So Justin Fields is going to have to go, because if he's going to play the rest of the year, and under this staff, they're not going to be very fucking good. And it's going to be, yeah, Justin Fields has now started this and this and this amount of games. He's shit, and he needs a fresh start to go somewhere else.
Well, you watch him, he's defeated. Body language on the sideline is awful. And you talked about this at the press conference a couple of weeks ago. I know you put out today that, you wish that he would show a little bit more personality. I'll push back on that. I feel like he did show a little personality last week when he answered the question honestly about the coaching. But I told you, this guy will never be honest again. That's why you don't be honest, because whatever you say is going to be taken, get ran with it. But look, body language on the sideline is terrible, right? He looks defeated. Like that's not a good sign, man. He's not out there, come on, rah, guys, let's get it going. That's on me. Let's get it right back. Let's go ahead. It's just kind of like, man, I got to go fucking back out there, and you already know what's going to happen. Before he threw that pick, I said, he's going to throw a pick. It's over with, man. Like, there's no way. I think you had said it too. Like, this is over with.
I said a turnover was loading before the scoop and score. I said, oh my God, I've seen this movie so many times. The turnover's coming.
Turnover's coming. Yeah.
Yeah.
So his confidence is completely shot as a quarterback. So I think you're right. He has to get out of Chicago and hopefully can resurrect his career somewhere else. And as an organization, we probably need to move on, which is crazy that we are saying this on October 3rd or October 2nd. It's crazy that we still have 13 games left of this.
And also, it's Nick, hopeless. Like, in a perfect world, I would love to see if he could do something with, like, a real offense and a real coach, because he's never had that. Let's be honest. He's never had that. So, but we don't have that luxury now. That's been punted. That's the problem. I've also talked about this 100 times. That's the problem when you let Nagy hang around an extra year for no fucking reason whatsoever, other than you don't want to pay two coaches. You essentially that will go down as as like a turning point, like in the franchise. Like, what are we actually going to do here? Yeah. Do we really give a fuck about trying to turn this around? And are we about winning, or are we just gonna, Nick? They punted a full NFL calendar like it was a week, like it was a bye week. We went into the year dead with a quarterback in year one. They could have started fresh right then. So it's just all bad. And honestly, bro, the fact that Ryan Poles was still at his post to make that deal is nonsense as well. Ryan Poles made a last-ditch effort to save his job, moved up and drafted a quarterback that he thought had talent, and then was not on the same page.
Allowed his coach to not play him.
Yes. It's just it's insanity, right? So that then kicks off the chain reaction of coach didn't pick the quarterback, offensive coordinator, new GM, new president. GM picks a defensive-minded coach whose defense is dog shit.
Awful. That's so, that's yeah.
It's
the
just
defense has gotten worse under Eberflus, and he's a defensive head coach.
So but it's clear as day to me. This shit needs to be reset. Reset it. It's completely in shambles. Nick, when your fucking PlayStation's not working and shit's off, you fucking reset it to get the shit back on track. It's no different here, bro. I know the money's at stake, and that's always the linchpin, of course. But, man, this needs to be reset. It's clear as day. Also, let's go back to Eberflus. Nick, go back and watch the press conference. There was a clear, pointed question. I don't know who asked, but they said, hey, Matt, Coach Eberflus, do you feel like he said, do you feel like you've done enough and are like coaching up to your ability? Like Have you been doing your job good enough for the Chicago Bears to be successful? A perfect opportunity for him to be like, I have been bad. We need to be better. I need to get shit together. I need to run my locker room better. He goes, we all need to do better. Everyone around needs to do their job better. Dude, how many fucking times are we going to go over this? You literally, as the head coach, are making, I don't even know how much money Eberflus makes. It's fucking too much, whatever.
The Bears coaches are usually the lowest paid in the league, so he's probably.
Who cares? I don't give a fuck.
Whatever. He's making a lot of money.
He's making a lot of money. Nick, it's almost your job to just get paid every week and go up in the. Your job is to stand in front of the camera and say, man, I'm not doing good enough. And then when shit goes well, my guys are locked in. They're playing well. My coaching staff has got these guys so locked in. That's almost your only job. Keep shit in-house, organized, and when shit goes bad, you go out in front of the cameras and you take it for everyone. And then when shit's going good, it has nothing to do with you, and it's about everybody else and who you're putting together. That's it. That is the biggest part of your job. Putting people in the right places, and when they do well, you give them the credit. And when shit goes wrong, you take the L. That's it.
1,000%.
And every opportunity they've given him to do that, he doesn't have anything. Get this guy out of here, man. Period. That's it.
Well, and there's zero results. I mean, forget all that other shit. There's zero results. There's no results you can actually bank on. The defense hasn't improved, right? I don't know what his hits philosophy is, but I have not seen any of it. And you add that to everything else, like at least maybe you're not the best with the press, right? Or maybe you're not the best locker room manager. But if you're winning ball games, nobody really gives a shit. If people are seeing results, nobody really gives a shit. But when you lose 13 straight, all that other shit comes to light. And people start saying, what exactly are you here for? You're not here to mentor Justin. You're not here to hold the locker room accountable. You're not here to coach up the defense. What exactly is it that you do? Other than get up every week and give some bullshit answers and have zero idea what's going on. It reminds me of remember the Hoiberg?
Yeah,
clueless.
It's very similar.
Asleep at the wheel. Had no idea.
Boylan.
Bullshit answers. I just have no idea. No, Boylan actually knew what he wanted to do. It just didn't work. It was stupid.
That's actually true. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there were things he was trying to do. It was a clear plan. It was just the wrong one. This guy, I don't know what the plan is. I also just don't know what his responsibility is. Again, like you said, I got the same challenge. DM me, text me. Let me know what it is that Matt Eberflus does and does well.
No. Yeah, I mean, just one thing that one reason why he should still be the coach. Also, really quick, Eberflus was on ESPN 1000, said that Claypool will not be at Hallis Hall this week, going into the short week against the Commanders on Thursday. So that is official. But yeah, there's absolutely no reason this dude should keep his job. 3-18 through 21 games. John Fox was fucking awful. He was 7 of 14 in his first 21. John Fox was bad.
He was literally just collecting a check. They brought him in there to be a caretaker. And yeah, he was better than Eberflus.
10-11 for Mark Trestman in his first 21. The guy is it's just a bad hire. It just goes down as a bad hire. That's it. Let's move on. Fire him. Let's get an offensive guy in the building and get rolling. Go talk to Ben Johnson out in Detroit. That's what we should do.
No, for real.
Bears go to Washington on Thursday Night Football. Line sits at 6. It opened at 6. It's now ticked up to 6.5. I already have a teaser in. I'm taking the Giants tonight +8, and I took the Commanders at -0.5 point, essentially a pick 'em. I think we go out to Washington and get and definitely take a double-digit L.
Oh my God! Did you see them this weekend? That's a scrappy Commanders team. They lost by 3 to the best team one of the best teams in the NFL.
They play hard
every week
as hell.
Howell's solid.
Hey, listen.
Howell's a solid quarterback.
Another guy, Ron Rivera, never ever gonna win you a Super Bowl. He has shit in order though. Guys are gonna play hard. He doesn't play that shit. Do you remember? Rest in peace, Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah,
he must have talked. He hung out with Dwayne Haskins for 10 days and said, "Yeah, this guy's never gonna play for me. I want nothing to do with that." He makes decisions. He knows how he wants shit to be run. Like, just he's an NFL head coach that he's a fixer. He can get your organization back on track. He's never going to take it to the next level. He's got the old school thinking. He'll get shit on track. Never going to win you a ton of games. But Eberflus does not none of them.
None of it. You're not going to win, and you're not going to be proud of what you're seeing out there.
Yeah. So I think that's where I'm at, man. We're gonna get out of here. But Justin Fields has now become collateral damage for two bad staffs, two bad hired coaches, two offenses, on top of maybe being limited as an NFL head coach. So it's time to reset, clean it out, do whatever you got to do. It's about eating the money and trying to listen. You can make the franchise right. The McCaskies can and Kevin Warren can if they want to and if they're willing. You will be able to tell what they want to do here going forward the next 6 to 12 months for sure. For Big Nick the Quick, I'm your host, Sean Little. No Catch Up Sports Talk via Chicago. Week 4 recap in the books. We'll see you guys Friday because Thursday night, the Bears are back on national TV to be talked about. No Catch Up Sports Talk via Chicago. We'll see y'all later.